Hey guys, Mr. G here. I want to make a quick video on reference angles. They're definitely going to help us when we're going to have to evaluate degrees in a unit circle. All right. Now, reference angles are associated with every angle drawn in standard position, except for quadrantal angles. Now, if you recall, an angle that's in standard position, we have the initial side, which is always on the right side of the x-axis, and then we have the terminal side, which is anywhere around the unit circle. All right. Now, before we look at reference angles in each quadrant, I want to talk more about a reference angle. Now, a reference angle is always positive and is less than 90 degrees, which makes a reference angle an acute angle. So that means that a reference angle has to be in between 0 to 90 degrees. All right, so speaking of angles in between 0 to 90 degrees, let's take a look at the first quadrant, which is quadrant 1, where we're looking at just angle measurements in between 0 to 90 degrees. Now I want to figure out what is my reference angle for this situation by using my blue pen. Now, luckily, when referring to reference angles, they have to be less than 90 degrees. And luckily, we're looking at an angle measurement that's already less than 90 degrees. So we can say that the reference angle for this specific angle measurement, which is 60 degrees, is the angle itself. So I'm going to draw my reference angle on the same spot as the given angle. So my reference angle is also 60 degrees. So to calculate a reference angle in the first quadrant is basically the angle itself. So whenever we are figuring out the reference angle in quadrant 1, we can just refer to itself. So for the reference angle, in quadrant 1, is always going to be the angle itself. So usually when we refer to reference angle, we usually refer to the symbol as theta with a apostrophe on top. This is going to represent the symbol for reference angle. All right. I can even quote it saying, I am my own reference angle in quadrant 1. So in quadrant 1, the reference angle is just the angle itself. Let's take a look at the second quadrant in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, now we're looking at angles over 90 degrees. So we have an example which is 120 degrees. Now usually a reference angle, the position that the reference angle is at is in between the terminal side and the nearest part of the x-axis. All right? So now we can look at this side of the x-axis as well. So my reference angle, we have the terminal side, and the nearest x-axis for this quadrant is the left side of the x-axis, which is located on 180 degrees. So that means that over here is going to be my reference angle. So I need to figure out what is the reference angle for this one. All right. How do I calculate my reference angle in quadrant 2? Now what I can do is I almost have a half a circle with the reference angle. So to figure out this missing measurement, I could take my half a circle, which is 180, and subtract it to 120 degrees. So if I subtract the two angle measurements, let me just go ahead and put that in, 180 minus 120, I get 60 degrees. So that means that my angle measurement over here is 60 degrees. So that's going to be my reference angle for 120 degrees. All right. So to calculate a reference angle in quadrant 2, all I need to do is I need to take 180 degrees and subtract it to the given angle measurement, which is theta. All right. And that's going to give me my reference angle. All right. So now let's take a look at the third quadrant. Now the third quadrant, we're going we're going to be looking at angles in between 180 to 270 degrees. So for this example, we're going to look at 240 degrees as my angle measurement. Now, the reference angle is always located on the terminal side and the nearest parts of the x-axis. So in this one, we see that the terminal side is over here, and we see that the nearest x-axis in the third quadrant is still 180 degrees on the left side, which is on 180 degrees. So my reference angle is going to be over here. All right, so this over here is going to be my reference angle. So we see that this angle is included within the 240 degrees. So now I need to figure out what is the reference angle? What is the measurement of the reference angle over here? So what I can do is we see that this angle is within the 240 degrees. What I can do is I can take the given angle measurement and take out half of the circle, which is 180 degrees. So in my calculator, if I do 240 minus 180, I get 60 degrees. So that means that my reference angle for 240 is 60 degrees. Now to figure out the reference angle in the third quadrant, all I do is I take the given angle measurement, which is theta, and subtract it to 180, and that's going to give me my reference angle. All right? So now let's take a look at the last example, which is the fourth quadrant. Now the fourth quadrant, we're taking a look at two angle measurements, which is 270 degrees to 360 degrees. So we see that we're almost completing a full circle, a full circular rotation. All right, so my reference angle has to be on the terminal side and the nearest part of the x-axis, which is on the right side, where 360 degree is at. So my reference angle is over here. All right, so this over here is my reference angle. Okay, so now I need to figure out what is the reference angle for 300 degrees. All right, so what I can do is we're almost completing a full circle with this reference angle. Now, if I were to take my full circle, which is 360 degrees, and subtract it to 300, so if I take 360 minus 300, I get 60 degrees. So my reference angle over here is 60 degrees. All right, now to figure out my reference angle in the fourth quadrant, all I need to do is take 360 and subtract it to the given theta, the given angle measurement, and I get my reference angle. All right. So I was able to figure out the reference angle in each quadrant. In the first quadrant, it's the angle itself. In the second quadrant, we take 180 and subtract it to the given angle measurement. In the third quadrant, we take that given angle measurement and subtract it to 180. And in the fourth quadrant, we take 360 and subtract it to the given angle measurement. All right? Okay, so we took a look at finding a reference angle in each quadrant. Luckily, the examples that we looked at, the reference angles were the same, which was 60 degrees. So what does it mean if the reference angle is the same exact thing? Well, that means that the angles are going to share the same x and y value. The only difference is going to be a negative. Now, usually the reference angle refers always back to the first quadrant, since the reference angle, the measurement of the reference angle is the angle itself. So for example, we have 60 over here. Now in the previous video, we figured out the x and y coordinate for 60 degrees in a unit circle. So that means that the x and y coordinate in this one, even in this one, and also this one as well, are going to be the same exact x and y coordinate. The only difference is the sign may change. For example, in the second quadrant, we see that we're looking at the left side of the x coordinate, which is a negative direction. So the x may become a negative for this one, but the y may stay the same as the original over here. Also in the third quadrant, both of the signs are going to change. And in the fourth quadrant, only the y value is going to change it to a negative. All right? Hope you guys have a wonderful day.